The grocery store at night is a different place. Aisles stretch into silent canyons, fluorescent lights hum with a lonely drone, and every distant rumble seems to echo with an unsettling promise. Tonight, we're stepping into those spaces, the mundane made menacing, the familiar twisted into something you can't quite shake. Prepare yourself for the ordinary places where the extraordinary and the terrifying can unfold. Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, and let the quiet unease begin. Because sometimes, the most chilling horrors aren't found in shadowed woods, but in the glaring, sterile brightness of everyday life. The automatic doors at PriceSmart usually hissed shut with a definitive, almost aggressive sigh, but tonight they just clicked. A faint, almost imperceptible click, like a lock settling into place. I was 19, a college student trying to save up, and closing the store alone on Sunday nights was my least favorite shift. Everyone else hated it too, but I always got stuck with it because I was reliable. The store was huge, maybe 80,000 square feet, and once the lights dimmed to their energy-saving mode, it felt like walking through a cavern. That night, there was an unusual chill in the air. Not the usual AC bite, but something deeper, almost damp, like a late autumn evening even though it was mid-July. My routine was solid. Lock the main doors at 10 p.m. sharp, then do a quick sweep of the aisles to make sure no one was trying to hide out. It happened more often than you'd think, usually teenagers wanting to prank their friends or homeless individuals looking for a warm spot. After the sweep, I'd count the registers, reconcile the safe, and finally set the alarm. I'd done it hundreds of times. This particular Sunday, after I'd locked up, I started my sweep from the back, near the dairy section. The store was eerily quiet, just the hum of the freezers and the soft echo of my sneakers on the polished concrete. No music, no intercom announcements, just that thick silence. About halfway down aisle 7, where we kept the cereals and canned goods, I heard something. A soft thud. It wasn't loud enough to be a box falling from a high shelf, more like something being gently placed on the floor. I froze, my hand on a box of Frosted Flakes. My heart did a quick little stutter step. I told myself it was just the building settling, or maybe a rodent. Old buildings make noises. This PriceSmart had been here since the 70s. I peered down the long, shadowed aisle, my eyes trying to adjust to the dim emergency lighting that cast long, distorted shadows. Nothing moved. The air was still. I took a deep breath, shook my head, and kept walking, trying to convince myself it was nothing. I finished the sweep of the main aisles, then headed to the frozen foods. That's when I saw it. Tucked away in the corner, behind a display of ice cream, was a shopping cart. It was one of the older models with a wobbly wheel, and it was completely empty. I know for a fact that I'd cleared all the carts from the floor before I locked the doors. It was part of my routine, the first thing I did after the last customer left. This cart, though, it looked like it had just been abandoned. It wasn't unusual for a customer to leave a cart somewhere, but after closing, felt wrong. I pushed it towards the front, adding it to the neat row of collected carts, a knot forming in my stomach. I was making my way to the office to start the cash count, passing by the customer service desk, when I heard it again. This time, it wasn't a thud. It was a whisper, faint, indistinct, like someone talking just out of earshot. It seemed to come from the general merchandise section, near the electronics. My blood ran cold. My first thought was that I'd missed someone during my sweep. Maybe a kid who'd fallen asleep in a clothes rack? I tried to rationalize it, to tell myself it was the ventilation system, or even my own imagination playing tricks in the silence. But it sounded too much like actual human speech. I gripped my walkie-talkie, even though there was no one left to talk to. I slowly, cautiously, walked towards the general merchandise section. Each step felt incredibly loud in the silence. The whispers had stopped. I checked behind displays, under tables, even opened a few changing room doors that somehow always got left unlocked. Nothing. The area was completely clear. I was starting to feel genuinely unnerved. My breath was shallow, and I could feel my pulse thrumming in my ears. I decided I needed to just finish my work and get out of there. I turned to head back to the office when I saw something move at the very end of the main aisle, way down by the front doors. A shadow. It was too quick, too fleeting to be certain, but I saw it. I ducked into the produced stockroom, heart pounding, and pressed myself against a stack of empty cardboard boxes. My rational mind was screaming at me to call the police, but my irrational mind was telling me I'd sound like an idiot. What would I say? I heard a whisper and saw a shadow? They'd probably think I was high. I just waited, listening. The store was silent again, but it felt like a different kind of silence now. A watchful, heavy silence. I slowly crept to the stockroom door, peeking out through the narrow gap. The main aisle was empty. The front of the store, beyond the registers, was just a vast, dark expanse. Nothing, but I felt it. The presence. It was still there. After what felt like an eternity, I decided I couldn't just stay hidden. I had to finish or I'd be here all night. I slipped out of the stockroom and made a beeline for the office, trying to move as quietly as possible. I locked the office door behind me and practically dove for the phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed the manager's number. It went straight to voicemail. No answer. I slammed the phone down, frustration mixing with my fear. I quickly counted the tills, my eyes darting towards the office door every few seconds. When I was finally done, I grabbed my bag and slowly opened the office door. That's when I saw it. In the middle of checkout lane 5, one of the red plastic dividers, the kind customers used to separate their groceries, was standing upright. It hadn't been there when I locked up. I didn't even bother to collect my deposit bag. I just ran. I sprinted across the main sales floor, past the checkout lanes, not daring to look back. My hand fumbled with the alarm panel, punching in the code with shaking fingers. The red light on the panel flashed green, indicating the system was armed. The loud, piercing beep 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 of the arming sequence filled the store, echoing off the high ceilings. I practically ripped the keys from the lock, pushed open the automatic doors, which this time hissed open perfectly, and burst out into the cool night air. I didn't stop until I was in my car, fumbling with the keys and speeding out of the parking lot. I called my manager from my car, explaining everything in a breathless rush. He sounded skeptical, but promised to check the security footage first thing in the morning. I didn't go back to work at PriceSmart after that. I just couldn't. The thought of being in that huge, silent building again, knowing someone had been in there with me after hours watching me, playing games, it was too much. The manager called me a few days later. He said the footage showed nothing, just me doing my closing routine alone. He even played back the audio from the cameras, which picked up my footsteps, the hum of the freezers, and nothing else. But I know what I heard, and I know what I saw. I never found out who was in that store with me, and I never want to. It's easy to dismiss a fleeting glance, a strange interaction, as just a trick of the mind, especially when you're tired. But what if those moments aren't just passing anomalies? What if they're threads, slowly weaving a pattern that reveals something deeply, uncomfortably wrong, right there in the open? The last shopping cart, a beat-up metal one with a wobbly wheel, was sitting right in the middle of aisle 7, not tucked away with the others outside. I knew it shouldn't have been there. It was 11:15 p.m., 15 minutes after we'd officially closed the big box bargains, and I was the last person left, locking up for the night. My shift had started at 3 p.m., a long Saturday, and I was just ready to go home. Usually, the carts were all collected by the evening staff, or at least pushed outside the main entrance for the cart return guy. Finding one deep inside the store, after I'd already swept through most of the aisles, felt off. Just a little. But I figured someone had just missed it, Or maybe a customer had abandoned it right before closing. My name's Daniel, and I was 22 at the time, working my way through community college. Big Box Bargains was a pretty standard chain store, always busy, always a little understaffed. Closing alone was pretty normal for the shift manager, which was me that night. My routine was solid. Lock the front doors at 11 p.m. sharp, do a final sweep for forgotten customers, turn off aisle lights section by section, arm the alarm, then finally lock the main staff entrance. It usually took me about 45 minutes to an hour. That night, I was running a little ahead of schedule, which was a nice change. I just finished checking the produce section when I spotted that cart. I walked over to the rogue cart, intending to push it out the front door before I locked that one up too. As I got closer, I noticed it was completely empty. Not even a stray receipt or a forgotten candy wrapper. Just a bare metal basket. I shrugged, grabbed the handle, and started wheeling it. That's when I heard it. A faint scraping sound, like plastic on linoleum, coming from aisle 9, the cleaning supplies. It was quiet, almost imperceptible over the hum of the remaining refrigerators and the distant drone of the HVAC. I paused, the cart silent in my hand. Nothing. Just the usual store noises. Probably just a fan or something settling. I told myself it was nothing and continued toward the front. I pushed the cart towards the main entrance, making a mental note to check the motion sensors on the alarm panel before setting it. Suddenly, the fluorescent lights in the main aisle flickered. A quick dip and then back to full brightness. It wasn't a full blackout, just a brief, unsettling blip. I stopped again, my hand still on the cart handle. This store had old wiring, so a flicker wasn't unheard of, but it always made me jump a little when it happened in the dead quiet of closing. I looked around into the shadows of the aisles. Nothing, just the long, empty stretches of shelving, reflecting the harsh light. The silence felt heavier now, like something was listening. I finally got the cart outside and locked the front automatic doors. Then I started my light-off routine, working my way back from the front of the store. I turned off the lights in the checkout lanes, then the seasonal section. As I moved into the back aisles, I heard it again. This time, it was a distinct creak, like a heavy door opening slowly. Not the front doors, those were definitely locked. It sounded like it came from the very back, near the staff entrance where the delivery trucks came in. I knew that door was supposed to be double-locked from the inside. A cold prickle ran up my spine. Had someone not secured it properly? Or worse, had someone managed to get in? I walked slowly, deliberately, towards the back of the store, keeping my hand on my utility belt, where I kept my keys and a small flashlight. The sound of my own footsteps echoed eerily in the vast, empty space. I reached the service corridor that led to the staff entrance. The door was indeed slightly ajar, maybe an inch. My heart started to pound. I pushed it open slowly, peering into the dark loading bay beyond. Empty. No truck, no delivery personnel, just shadows. I checked the lock. It was engaged. Confused, I pulled the door shut, making sure it clicked firmly into place. I tried the handle. It was secure. I must have imagined it, or maybe it was just a draft. I turned to walk back, planning to finish my light-off routine and just get out of there. That's when I saw it. One of the self-checkout registers, which I had definitely shut down and cleared earlier, had its screen glowing faintly. It displayed the welcome, "Please scan your items" message, and the Start Shopping button was highlighted. My blood ran cold. I'd walked past it maybe 10 minutes ago and it had been completely off. Dark. Nobody could have turned it on without me seeing them. My hands were shaking as I approached it. I pressed the cancel button, and the screen went dark. It was just an electrical fluke, I told myself, a ghost in the machine. I practically ran to my manager's office, needing to check the security camera feeds. The small office was dark, but I flipped on the light switch, illuminating the 4 monitors displaying different angles of the store. I rewound the footage from the last hour, looking specifically at the self-checkout area and the back entrance. The footage showed me turning off the self-checkout, then walking away. Then, about 5 minutes later, a flicker on the screen, and the self-checkout lights came back on. No one was visible in the frame. No one at all. Just the empty store. And then, on the monitor showing the service corridor, I saw the back door slowly, almost imperceptibly, unlatch. Again, no one visible. I watched the footage again, my breath catching in my throat. I rewinded a bit further, to just after I'd locked the front doors. I saw myself on screen walking down aisle 7, and then the image froze for a second. When it resumed, the wobbly shopping cart was already in the middle of aisle 7, where I'd found it. It had been placed there after I locked the front doors, after I'd made my initial sweep. Someone had been in the store all along. Someone had watched me lock the doors, then decided to push that cart out into the open. I didn't wait to see if they were still there. I bolted out of that office, armed the alarm from the main panel without even checking the zones, and ran out the staff entrance, locking it behind me with trembling hands. I never went back. You think you know a place, every shelf, every corner. You walk the same paths, see the same faces. But the world has a way of hiding secrets in plain sight, of shifting just enough to reveal something you were never meant to see, lurking just beyond the familiar. The air conditioning was always a little aggressive at the Piggly Wiggly, even after they turned it off for the night. But tonight there was an actual chill that didn't feel right. I was 22, fresh out of community college, and working the closing shift at the grocery store. It was a Friday, which usually meant a busy night, but for some reason, this particular evening had been dead. I'd spent most of my shift zoning aisles, pretending to look busy while really just counting down the minutes until I could clock out and go home. Closing was usually pretty straightforward. Sweep, mop, count the registers, and make sure the back door was locked up tight. Tonight felt different from the moment the last customer left, which was unusually early, around 9:45 p.m. The silence in a supermarket after hours is unlike anything else. All the background noise, the low hum of the refrigerators, the distant chatter of shoppers, the beeping of scanners, it all just vanishes, replaced by this vast, echoing quiet. It makes every little sound stand out. The creak of the building settling, the distant drone of traffic from the highway, even the soft shuffle of my own shoes on the linoleum felt amplified. I started my routine, sweeping the front end first. As I made my way around the store, I kept glancing up at the security cameras. Just a habit. They were always on, recording everything, even if nobody was actively watching the monitors in the back office. I was almost done with the main aisles, pushing the big industrial broom down aisle 6 where they kept the cleaning supplies. That's when I heard it. A faint scraping sound. It was subtle, easily dismissed as the building, or maybe even my own broom, but it stopped me. I paused, listened. Nothing. Just that heavy silence again. I told myself it was probably just the ice machine in the back or something settling. I'd worked here long enough to know the store made all kinds of weird noises in the dead of night. I continued sweeping, trying to ignore the prickle of unease that had started at the base of my neck. It was probably nothing. Everything was always nothing. A few minutes later, while I was emptying the trash cans from the restrooms, I heard it again. This time it wasn't a scrape. It sounded like a whisper, very soft, just barely there, like someone talking to themselves. It seemed to come from the direction of the back stockroom, near the loading dock. My heart gave a little jump. I stood still, holding an overflowing trash bag, straining to hear. The store was supposed to be completely empty. I was the only one on shift. I slowly walked towards the back, trying to be quiet. My logical brain was telling me it was the ventilation system, or maybe some prankster kids outside the loading dock door. But my gut felt tight. When I got to the back, I saw that the door to the meat freezer was slightly ajar. That was odd. It was supposed to be kept tightly shut to maintain temperature. I knew Mark, the butcher, was usually pretty good about that. I pushed it closed, and as I did, I heard the whisper again, clearer this time. It wasn't outside. It was inside, and it sounded like it was coming from the back office, where the security monitors were. A cold dread washed over me. I felt the hair on my arms stand up. I wasn't just hearing things. Someone was in here. Someone had to be. I thought about calling my manager, but my phone was still in my locker in the break room. I moved as quietly as I could towards the office door. It was slightly ajar, just like the freezer. I pushed it open slowly, peering inside. The monitors were on, showing different angles of the store, but the office itself was dark, illuminated only by the glow of the screens. And there, sitting in the office chair, facing away from me, was a figure. They were leaning forward, their face close to the main monitor showing the front of the store. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't make out many details in the dim light, just the dark outline of a person. My first thought was that a manager had come back, but no manager had keys to just let themselves in without the alarm going off. I stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. The figure in the chair didn't move. They just stared at the screen. I slowly reached for the light switch on the wall, my hand trembling. My fingers brushed the plastic, but before I could flip it, something on the screen caught my eye. The main monitor was showing the front entrance, an empty aisle, and through the glass doors, the dark parking lot. And in the reflection of the glass doors on the screen, I saw myself standing in the doorway of the office. But I didn't see the figure in the chair reflected. It was just the empty office chair, and then my own image and nothing else. My blood ran cold. I yanked my hand back from the light switch like I'd been burned. My eyes darted from the screen back to the chair, then back to the screen. The figure was still there, slumped over the desk, their head almost touching the monitor. But the reflection showed nothing, absolutely nothing in that chair. It was empty, phantom. My mind screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I couldn't reconcile what I was seeing with what I was experiencing. Was I hallucinating? Was someone playing a cruel joke? The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. And then, slowly, agonizingly slowly, the figure in the chair began to turn. Not their whole body, just their head. Tilted, gradually, away from the screen, towards me. In the dim light, I could almost make out the outline of a face, but it was just a shadow, a void where features should have been. I could feel a presence, a cold, observing weight. My throat was dry, my voice caught. I couldn't scream, couldn't even whisper. I just stood there, watching this impossible thing turn towards me, knowing it wasn't supposed to be there, knowing that I was completely, utterly alone, locked in with whatever this was. Felt like it was about to look directly at me. I didn't wait to see its face. The moment its head was almost fully turned, I bolted. I didn't think, didn't look back. I just ran, out of the office, through the stockroom, past the freezers and straight for the back exit. My hands fumbled with the deadbolt, my fingers clumsy with terror. It felt like an eternity before the lock clicked open. I burst out into the cool night air, not bothering to lock the door behind me. I just kept running across the empty parking lot, straight to my car, fumbling for my keys, starting the engine. I drove home, shaking. The image of that turning shadow burned into my mind. I called the manager from my apartment and quit on the spot. I never went back to that store. They probably found the back door open the next morning. Sometimes, the most unsettling things aren't what jumps out at you, but what slips in unnoticed. The small details, the things that don't quite fit, building a quiet dread until you realize you've been looking at it all wrong, and now it's looking back. The overhead music always shut off exactly at 9 p.m. at the department store where I worked, but tonight it kept playing. a tinny pop song echoing through the nearly empty aisles. I was 20, working my way through community college, and closing alone was my least favorite shift. The store, a big, rambling old building with too many nooks and crannies, felt completely different once the customers cleared out. It transformed from a brightly lit consumer paradise into a labyrinth of shadows and still mannequins. I usually tried to be out the door by 9:15 p.m., but this late music glitch meant I had to check every speaker system, which was scattered across 3 floors. It was annoying, but nothing to worry about, just another Friday night annoyance. My routine was ingrained. Lock the main entrance doors precisely at 9 p.m., then do a full sweep of the store to make sure no one was left inside. After that, I'd turn off all the main lights, leaving only the dim emergency lighting, and finally set the alarm system. I started on the 3rd floor, moving through the women's clothing section. The silence after the music finally clicked off was almost heavier than the music itself. My footsteps echoed, and the rustle of hangers seemed unnaturally loud. I always felt a little jumpy during these sweeps, like I was expecting to see a shadow move in my peripheral vision, but it was always just my imagination playing tricks. As I made my way down to the 2nd floor, past the home goods and electronics, I noticed something odd near the men's outerwear display. A heavy, dark winter coat was hanging haphazardly on a rack, not neatly placed like the other merchandise. It was one of those expensive, full-length parkas, and it looked out of place like someone had just shrugged it off. My first thought was that a customer had forgotten it, which happens sometimes. I walked over, intending to take it to Lost and Found. As I reached for it, I noticed the faint smell of tobacco and something else, something metallic, almost like old pennies. It made me pause, just for a second. I picked up the coat, and it felt surprisingly heavy, not just the usual weight of a thick winter garment. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone rush back for it, but the floor was completely empty. That's when I noticed a small detail. One of the pockets felt unusually stiff, almost like there was something rigid inside. My curiosity got the better of me. I slipped my hand into the pocket, and my fingers brushed against a thin, hard rectangle. It was a driver's license. I pulled it out, my heart giving a little flutter of surprise. The photo showed a man with tired eyes and a thin beard. He didn't look familiar, which was strange since I'd been working there for over a year. My immediate thought was that this guy must have forgotten his coat, and by extension, his license. I considered calling the name on the license, but then I remembered the store policy. Any found ID had to be handed over to management first thing in the morning. I slipped the license back into the pocket. I did a quick check of the security camera monitors in the back office, just to see if I could spot the owner on his way out. The footage was grainy and dark, showing mostly empty aisles, but I saw no one fitting his description leaving the store after I had locked up. It made no sense. Had he somehow slipped past me? Or had he been in the store before I started my sweep? I continued my sweep, now with an unsettling feeling in my stomach. The coat, with the license still in its pocket, was draped over the customer service counter. Every shadow seemed to stretch a little longer. Every creak of the old building sounded like footsteps. I hurried through the ground floor, checking fitting rooms and behind displays, calling out a soft, "Hello? Anyone still here?" More out of habit than genuine expectation. The silence that answered was profound, almost suffocating. I double-checked the main entrance doors, pressing my palm against the cool metal of the lock. Still secured. There was no way anyone could have gotten in or out without me seeing them. As I walked back towards the main office to set the alarm, passing the customer service desk again, something clicked. If I had locked the doors at 9 p.m. and then swept the entire store and hadn't seen anyone, and then found a coat with a driver's license belonging to a man I didn't recognize, what did that mean? My mind raced through the possibilities. Maybe he just left it there earlier in the day and I missed it. But the coat felt warm, almost as if it had only just been taken off. And why was it hanging so awkwardly? Not on a proper hanger, but just slung over a peg. It felt like someone had just shed it in a hurry, or in a place they weren't supposed to be. I went into the manager's office, my hand already reaching for the alarm panel. As I prepared to punch in the code, I stopped dead. On the small, cluttered desk, usually covered with memos and paperwork, was a single silver key. It was a master key, one of the few that opened every door in the store, including the staff entrance at the very back. It was always kept in a locked drawer in the safe. I felt a cold dread spread through me. This key was not supposed to be here. Not at all. My gaze darted from the key to the security monitor in the corner of the room, which showed a grainy, static shot of the empty back hallway. And that's when I saw it. For a split second, a dark shape flickered at the very edge of the monitor's view, near the staff entrance door. It was gone almost as soon as I registered it, too quick to be sure. But it looked like a man, standing perfectly still, just at the edge of the frame, half hidden by a cleaning cart. My breath hitched. I rewound the footage, my fingers trembling, trying to get a clearer look. The manager had shown me how to do it once, but my mind was a fog. I couldn't focus. I couldn't rewind it fast enough to be certain. But the thought had already taken root. He wasn't gone. He was still here in the building. He had been here the whole time. I didn't try to rewind it again. I didn't even set the alarm. I grabbed the master key from the desk, my knuckles white as I gripped it, and ran. Not to the staff entrance, but to the front doors, the ones I had locked hours ago. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I fumbled with the locks, turning them with shaking hands, and practically threw myself out into the cool night air. I didn't look back. I just ran to my car, got in, and sped away, leaving the store's emergency lights glowing faintly in the distance. I called my manager from the parking lot of a gas station, my voice a shaky whisper, barely able to explain what had happened. They found the coat and the license, but the store was completely empty. No sign of anyone, nothing missing, just a master key, left on a desk, and a coat with a license, suggesting someone had been there, long after I had locked the doors, watching, waiting. These stories linger not because of monstrous creatures, but because they tap into a very human fear, the dread of the ordinary becoming extraordinary in the worst possible way. They remind us that the truly terrifying can wear a very familiar face, and sometimes the most disturbing truths are found in the places we frequent every single day, just waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. If you want more stories to keep you awake, consider subscribing for a new one every week.